Hey everybody, Hake Hardware here, and in this video we are going to set up my Proxmox VE 9 3-node cluster. What this guide is going to go over is basically all the steps I take after I install Proxmox to get my cluster set up and working great. Now, typically in the past, once I install Proxmox, I use the helper script, which is really cool, but just for trust and security purposes, I wanted to actually just manually do all those steps. It's not a whole lot. It actually takes like only a couple minutes and it's really easy. So I built this guide that basically walks you through all of the manual post-install configuration as well as setting up a cluster. Now, my cluster is 3 nodes, but any cluster size this will work with. You just have to replicate these steps on all the different clusters. So to be clear, the manual post-install configuration, I need to do this on all of my nodes. So you can see here, I've got 3 nodes. Actually, let me make this a little bit bigger. I think I can make this bigger, yeah. And let's just collapse this. Okay, so I've got 3 nodes here, Ceres, Eros, and Tycho. If you're catching on to the theme here, The Expanse, great TV show, great book. But I have 3 nodes here, and you could have 2 nodes or you could have 10 nodes. The instructions are going to be the same, but you do need to do all the post-install configuration for each one. So I've already gone through and done it for node 1 and node 2. We're going to do it for node 3, Tycho, and then from that we can go directly into the cluster configuration. So you're only going to see me do this on one node, but you need to do the post-install configuration on all of your nodes that are going to be in your cluster. And honestly, you can follow this guide even for a single node without a cluster. It's basically the same for the most part. You just don't have to do the cluster part. Okay, so I'm going to have this guide in the background, and there will be a link to it to my Substack with this same guide. This is in Obsidian, so you probably won't see the same exact formatting, but it'll be very similar on Substack. So if you want to be able to copy and paste these commands, definitely check the description and go to my Substack so you can view this guide. Okay, let me hide Obsidian, and we're going to, if you're kind of new to Proxmox, this guide really, we just jump right into it. But first, we're going to go to the actual web page for our Proxmox node here. So it'll just be the IP address of the computer, which you set up during the install, and then 8006 for the port. And then I'll just log in. And you can see we have this subscription nag. And if we go to our repositories, so we're in the data center view, if we go to our node view, and we go to our repositories, we've got like the Ceph repository, which we don't need. We've got the enterprise Proxmox one that we don't need because we don't have a subscription. Proxmox works fine without a subscription, but you do need the no subscription repository set up. And in addition to that, they mentioned that it's like not production ready. It's fine for a home lab, so don't let that worry you. Tons of people are using it with the no subscription repositories. So that's one of the things we're going to set up. But I like to have this up just because it's nice to check it and verify everything looks good every once in a while. So we're gonna hide that, but we'll bring Termius in here. And Termius is an application that I use to SSH into my Proxmox nodes. And it's really simple. Basically, there's a vault section here, and you can set up each of your nodes. So I have the IP address of my Proxmox host here. I have the host name of it. You can put anything here. It's just kind of like a name that you give it, but I typically use the host name. And then down here, you can set up your credentials. So I'm actually going to SSH in as root, which is totally fine for Proxmox typically. So don't let that worry you either. But I am SSH'd into it, and I'm just going to move this kind of in the middle here. And then there we go. I'll bring up my guide here. And again, for the most part, we're just going to be copy and pasting commands. And the first thing we're going to want to do is remove the enterprise repository. We're not even actually really removing it. We're just commenting everything out. So I'll just Control-Shift-V for Termius to paste in this command. And what this does is now it has commented out the enterprise repo. So if we do cat etc apt sources.d, so for the directory for our sources, and sources are where we download all the packages and everything for our distro, we can check out the PVE enterprise repository sources, and we can see now that this little pound sign, this is a comment. It basically comments out this repo, so it basically looks like a blank file to the system, so it's not going to actually be using this repository anymore. We are going to leave it in. You could theoretically delete it, but we're just going to leave it commented out. It's kind of the more elegant way to do it. And now we're going to configure some Debian-based repositories. So this is a big paste, but you're basically just adding this Debian.sources file. And then we're going to do the no subscription repository. So this is basically the alternate to the PVE enterprise one we just commented out. So you can see PVE no subscription. And then we're going to add a few repositories, but they're going to be commented out. If you are more advanced and you want to enable these and use them, that's fine. But again, we're doing this mainly for just having it available in the future to make it easier. So if you ever want to enable Ceph, you can get the Ceph repositories. And there's 2 of them in the guide. One of them is for no subscription, which most people are going to use. And then there's another one for if you do have a subscription. And then there's a test repository. We're going to add it. I mean, you could theoretically, the Ceph and the test one, you could just skip those if you're sure you don't want them ever. And then we're just going to do an update, because if we don't do an apt update, an apt update will basically just hit all those repositories and update the package list. Perfect. And then we will disable the subscription nag. So we are going to update our system, but we're just going to do the subscription nag first. So this basically, it's like a JavaScript widget that loads for the no subscription, or for the subscription notice that you saw when we first logged into Proxmox. All this does is basically change that so that it doesn't nag you. And then in order for that to take effect, we need to reinstall the Proxmox widget tool. So this is why we needed to do apt update earlier, because we need to make sure we had the package here to reinstall that. And now it's been reinstalled. So if we were to bring up our browser, and let's just hide Termius, and we do Control-Shift-R for a hard refresh, we don't get the notice anymore. So I think even if we were to log out, let's just go back in, there's no subscription nag. So that has worked. And let's bring back Termius. Whoops, brought Obsidian and take the browser away. Okay. Now at this point, we're making really good progress, but we want to disable a few services that we don't need. I am not going to be, well, a few services that I don't need. You might need them, but this guide doesn't cover them, and that's high availability. And that's like a special service that allows, if you have 2 nodes in your cluster and you have a VM or maybe a container, and one of your, well, you really want to have 3 nodes in your cluster, to be honest, because if one goes down, then and you only have 2, then there's no quorum and it causes a big issue. So you typically want at least 3 nodes, especially for high availability. And if one node goes down, automatically your VMs or your containers will get moved over to another node within your cluster. I'm not going to do that. Each of my nodes within my cluster does a completely different thing. So one is like my media server, one is like my core services, one is my NAS. So I can't really move them over. Like if I have my NAS set up and it goes down, I can't move all the hard disks over to another computer. So it just doesn't make sense for me. So we're going to do this systemctl disable, and that means we're disabling this service from starting. And we're going to leave CoroSync enabled, so that's another service that runs, but that's used for clusters. So we're just going to leave that on. If you're going through the helper script, it gives you an option to disable it if you're not using a cluster. But if you are using a cluster, you want to keep that enabled. And then we're going to do apt dist upgrade -y, and that's going to do a full system update. So it's going to pull in all those packages, figure out which ones need to be installed, download them, and then install them. And it does take a little while. So it's moving actually pretty quick for me. We're going through them. And then once you install all the packages, it's typically a good idea to reboot. So we'll do a quick reboot, and then from there we can start creating our cluster. So I'm just going to let this finish. We're going to do a reboot, and then I'll bring you back when we are back in. Okay, that the update finished up. That took a couple minutes, and we'll just type in reboot, and it'll do its reboot, and then again, I'll bring you back once that is finished. Okay, we are back in business here, and now we can start working on the cluster. And you might be wondering, okay, I'm setting up this cluster. I don't have high availability, so there's no automatic failovers. What are some benefits to running a cluster without high availability? And honestly, like, one of the main reasons for me is I just like the central management. Once you put all of your nodes in a cluster, you can actually access all the containers and create containers and VMs on all of your nodes within the cluster through one central user interface. It looks the same, but basically you're just going to have all 3 nodes available, and you can log into any of those nodes and see the other nodes, which is pretty cool in my opinion. You can also do live migration, so you could move, like let's say you need to do something where you need to move one of your VMs or containers to another node. You can do that when you're in a cluster, which is great. Also, like shared storage, if you're setting up an NFS or like Samba share, it's available once you set it up in your data center for all of the different nodes within your cluster, so you don't have to set it up 3 times. And then with backup and replication, a lot of times it's easier to just set it up when you have a cluster, just because it's all available there and it's very quick and easy to get things going. I am going to have a really good video on Proxmox Backup Server, which I highly recommend using. It's like the best way to back up everything. And yeah, so there's a lot to a cluster. I think even without high availability, it's totally worth it. Okay, so we are actually going to move to Cirrus, which is my main prime. It's basically my node 0, which is like the first node in my cluster, where I'm going to set everything up. And this first step is kind of optional. You can add to your etc hosts file all of the routes basically for your different nodes, and you can assign them like host names. So you can do like 192.168.10.10, which is my primary node. I could add to the host file that points, or if the name Cirrus points to that IP address. We're not going to do that. I know all my nodes are connectable, so we're going to skip the first step in the guide here for the cluster, and we're just going to initialize the cluster. So we're actually going to change this slightly. So we're going to do pvecm create, and then this is going to be the name of the cluster. I'm going to call it ring space. Totally made up name. Doesn't have to be this. You can name it whatever you want. Okay, and that is done. And then we can just verify that the cluster is working. We can see the name is ring space, and we have one cluster basically, or one node in the cluster at this point, and it's the local node. Now, we need to have our other nodes within the cluster join. So let's go to the second one, which is Eros, and we would just do this pvecm add, and then we put the IP address of your primary node here, and then you're going to just put in your password, and then we'll do yes, and it's just preparing everything. Okay, and you can see that it has successfully been added. All right, now what we need to do is log into our third node. And what we're going to do is basically the same command. So pvecm add, and then 192.168.10.10, which is the IP address of Cirrus. We just put in the password, and we're putting in the password of Cirrus, although my password's the same for all of these. We'll do yes, and then it will get added to our node. Okay, so back on Cirrus, we can do the pvecm status again. We can see now there are 3 nodes in this cluster, so we've got 3 votes expected. We need at least 2 for a quorum. And everything is looking good. We can list the nodes, although you see them down here. We can see Cirrus, Eros, and Tycho. Those are the 3 nodes. And you can check the status of CoroSync, which should be good. We can see that it is active and running, it's enabled, and everything is good to go. So if we bring up our browser, and let's just remove that, we can see now all 3 of them are listed. I know it's a little small. All 3 of them are listed under our data center, and we can access, if there were containers or VMs in here, we'd be able to see all of them here, which is awesome. Under our data center, we go to cluster, we can see the 3 clusters here. You could have done it through the UI, but I find that the CLI is much easier for setting up a cluster. It's super quick and super easy, but that is it. So from here, this is when I actually start creating all my VMs and containers and everything, but we also want to make sure we have a way to back up everything. So that is why one of the next guides I do will be on Proxmox backup server. Make sure you like, subscribe, and you'll get notified when that video is out. I'm going to be doing a ton of videos on Proxmox. I'm going to be setting up a media server. I'm going to be setting up some local AI stuff. I'm going to be setting up a NAS, and then I'll be setting up just my core services that I use within Proxmox for my home lab. That's like Pi-hole, Nginx, Proxy Manager. I have a lot of helpful apps like note-taking apps, Excalidraw for diagramming. There's just a ton of stuff that I use every day that I like to have installed here. I'm doing a total refresh of my home lab, so I'm going to make a video on basically everything that I do. So stay tuned, and hopefully this was helpful. I prefer to not use the helper scripts. And actually, that's one of the huge things that I'm doing this time is I'm not using a single helper script. I am doing everything manually just so that I understand how it works. And also for security and trust purposes, you never know if one of those scripts is going to get compromised. There's a lot of people looking at those scripts, so likely, somebody would find out right away. But if there's, that moment of time where a script was compromised, but nobody's noticed yet, you might fall victim to that. So it's also good to just know how to do everything. And it usually doesn't take that much more effort to do things manually. So I'll get off my soapbox, but I do think that's a benefit of these guides is we're going to be doing everything manually. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.